Perfect. All right, so the first question, what do women want and what do men want? That is the primary focus of this conversation. Do not be afraid to go there with your comments. I just ask everyone keep it tasteful. I don't care how far we go, just in terms of love, sex, and relationship, that being our topic, I want to explore it all. So I guess we'll start with the ladies, the two ladies. Jolon, let me start with you. What is it that you want in relationship, in love?
Well, discovering myself and discovering what relationship really means, I've definitely learned that friendship is really, really important. Um, and I say that because in my younger years of experience of dating, I always thought I had to be the girlfriend, which meant I had to dress up all the time. I had to smell nice, look nice, be proper, wear heels, be real feminine. Um, but never took into consideration that a friendship should be the foundation of the relationship, where you get to know that person. It's not just, oh, I look good on this guy's arm, but actually know who he is and know what he's about and how we can communicate, how we vibe, if we're compatible, and just being able to, discover each other. So I think friendship, again, is really super important in cultivating a relationship.
I love that. And I think for myself, I love the way that you speak of friendship because that is the primary, that's the foundation of relationship. Owning that friendship and knowing that, you know what, I'm rocking with my best friend, someone who I
Absolutely.
can just let my hair down with. I don't have to be in glam all the time. I can say what I want, be who I want, and just feel my pulse. And I think a lot of times women, we kind of overlook that in trying to take on a relationship and change people or, master some project or idea of a person we could either potentially fall in love with, or, we can let our friend somehow feel like, oh, one day he'll achieve this level and he will be the man for me. So when I think of it for myself, I definitely want someone who's primarily God fearing, that being first and foremost. I don't feel like I can do anything outside of God. When we have disagreements, that needs to be the forefront. Like we have something to go to, that being the Bible and prayer. And after that, I just, I need to really look at our values, his morals, my morals, what we stand for, our purpose, and try and find out, what the flaws are. Some people, at my age anyway, are coming into a relationship with children, you may not have a career, you may have a job. There are a lot of factors, but primarily, if I have someone who is God fearing and I can really have that um, compatibility with, I feel like that is a start for achieving success in a relationship. There's so much more, but that is the foundation for me. Lewis, you are sighing too much for me. Okay, you are sighing. And I don't know if I like it or not. Let's move over to the men in the men's panel. So let's see. Let's do it in alphabetical order. I have two L's. So Leo, don't do the side eye, Leo. don't do that. Leo, let's go first.
Ready, ready for it.
Okay. So I guess the question is, what am I looking for? I would say my foundation of what that would be would obviously be very similar to what the ladies mentioned, which is the friendship aspect and having, that strong relationship with God, or that interest, more importantly, to God. Not everyone knows God, and those that know God, they only know, God by their own education or their own experience. And even that introduction can cause future chaos because there's that assumption of, okay, you've identified that name, but are they sharing exactly the beliefs that you believe in the very way and actions that you believe it? So I would rather keep that area open so that it allows conversation and dialogue and learning and then that ability to really become more compatible, not just in the relationship aspect but just in that friendship piece. But someone who has a great sense of humor. For me, I need someone who likes to laugh. Laughing is great for the abs and it's definitely great for the face. So, and plus it shows that you're willing to enjoy life and live life and not take life so seriously. It's interesting because a lot of people stereotype of me as a massive contradiction, and it's usually because they don't know me. I come off as it appears that I come off as a very serious person, but deep down I'm really a cornball, goofball, joker who likes to smile and laugh. But that doesn't mean that I cannot conduct business when business needs to be handled. So just being able to have that versatility and being able to have a great sense of humor, but actionable ambition is another one, and I think that's something that's lacking in the generation as it's transitioning. Interestingly enough, actionable ambition. So I'll just cut it really like that. Having a very good friend, a woman that I could consider as my friend, has an idea of who God is and is interesting in learning more through a journey rather than a program, and sense of humor with actionable ambition, putting actions to your ambitions. That's really it.
I love it. All right, Lewis. It's my turn to sigh. Go ahead.
Did you guys get a message that came up?
I didn't know my end.
No.
The record.
You got
It says
extended.
something. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
you said-
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't struggle with this. I think that is what do a woman want? What do a man want? I think it's broad, and for me, I have to cut it up into different pieces. So number one, if I want to be a friend with a woman, I'm pursuing her friendship. So the characteristics of a woman, yes, the expectations of you definitely want to be around someone, great personality, all those different things. She's a woman of God, or she has a work in progress with her maker. She has a great head on her shoulder. She has discernment. All those different things when I'm pursuing as a friend. When I'm pursuing as a woman, as someone that's going to be my mate, to be loved, to grow in love with, I'm not pursuing her as a friend. I'm pursuing her as that. And one of the reasons why I do that, because I want her to know I'm not trying to be her friend right now. I am interested in you. I'm trying to get to know you. I'm trying to get to understand you as a woman, and I still want those characteristics. But I want you to know I'm pursuing you because I want us to be, hopefully in a relationship. Because if I don't do that, I don't want to leave myself open up to be friend zoned. Because when you're too friendly, and you treat it as like a friend, it still leaves room for others to move in if she don't really understand where you're trying to come from. That's just one layer. Not only that, it can also open up the doors that if I'm trying to be your friend, I can try to be someone else's friend. You could do the same thing. At what point do you narrow it down? Because if I'm pursuing you as someone that I want to be with, I'm not looking at you to have multiple friends. I'm not looking at you to be friendly with so many people, and there's no room for you to really get into a relationship if that's something that we talked about. So when I pursue a woman, I'm pursuing her as I want her to be my woman. I'm going to pursue her so she understands and know I'm trying to be in a relationship. Therefore, she knows and understands where I'm coming from. So I'm not trying to be friend zoned. I'm not trying to be, okay, we cool and everything. We can do that, but I really want you to understand that I'm really pursuing you. Especially if the interest is there, I'm pursuing you. And I want you to know that. Because if I don't do that, it does leave the door open for someone else to pursue her and come off differently where she can find interest in something else. So that's why I said for me, it's a little different. The characteristics and everything else is the same, but my pursuing or my what I want in a woman is definitely part of how I pursue her. If I'm trying to be your friend, I'm going to be just that. I'm going to be your friend, and you're going to know that, and you can't get confused. This way, either I'm looking to seek a relationship and to be with you, and throughout that time, once we're doing that and we get together and we start to learn each other, friendship is a journey, just like my brother said. It's a journey. It is. It's a continuous process. It's an ongoing. So it's not a stationary area. It's something I will continue to do and to put that effort forward as a longevity versus me just being friends with you. I think sometimes women can get confused because they do look at men as leaders. They do look at men as knowing what they want and going after what they want. And if you confuse her by just being her friend, you're not really going after her. You're trying to be her friend, and she can feel like, okay, well, he liked me, but is he really trying to like me like me? Is he trying to be with me, or is he trying to just be my friend? And that can sometimes get confused. I've heard numerous conversations when women talk about that. When they're interested in a man, you got one man that's just calm and collective, just trying to be cool. There's another man that's going after her, and he's making it known, I want to be with you, and I'm not trying to have anybody else pursue you.
Food for thought. Serious food for thought. Oscar. Yay.
All right.
What does he
um,
want?
huh?
I said, what is it that Oscar wants? What did he want once upon a time from his wife, his potential wife?
Well, I'm 47 now, and as I mentioned in our initial call, I was previously married 15 years, and the thing that I wanted, I believe I got that. So I went through the phases of this is what I want, and I had all my list. I get that, you know, but I'm at a point now that the thing that I want in a relationship most is once I get my list, everything that I want there to be consistency. For example, I can say I want a wife that's, committed. I want, a wife that's godly. I want us to have fun and laugh together, go on, do adventurous type things. For me, what's important at this point in my life is regardless of the challenges that we face as a couple in our relationship, don't change, right? Remain committed to that thing. Because if we said that, hey, we are in this for the long haul, but if we're mad at each other, we stop communicating. That's on both sides. Or we're mad, so we let's say the couple, you don't go out anymore. You know what I mean? For that long period of time. Or hey, it's the holidays and we don't do for each other like we did before because we're angry. So for me, it's the consistency. I can say, oh yeah, I want a spouse that, would allow me to take the lead, or if she takes the lead, but then when there's conflict in a relationship, it's, hey, you're on your own. And I've seen that a lot in relationships where I'm committed to you as long as you make me happy.
Correct.
So for me, what I want is if I'm committed to you and you make me angry, I don't want to be the type of man to be like, you know what, I'm going to withhold my love from you or my commitment from you or my affection from you because I'm angry, I'm pissed off at you. vice versa. If you're upset at me, I don't want you to now, oh, well, I'm not going to hug, I'm not going to kiss, I'm not going to, do the things that brought us together. So I just want you to be, that person to be anchored in the relationship, like I'm anchored in the relationship. Bottom line.
Hey, Nicole, just real quick. I mean, I definitely can relate to what he's saying. And I was married for 7 years, and I got married young, and I just found myself. I guess what changed with me in understanding where he's coming from, because it is that consistency. It is that, not necessarily for me change, because I think change is inevitable. We will change as we grow. We will change, but we need to change together, or we need to stay in communication, in line together, so that that change is not a part change. It's a change that we come together and learn from each other. So I do think change is inevitable. But I had got to the point after my marriage where I had to learn. I'll put it this way: I did not understand the woman she grew up to be.
Mhm.
Okay, which put me in a position to say, okay, if I want to do this again, if I want to get married again, and I do believe marriage is a beautiful thing. I do believe love works, and relationship works and marriage work. Um, if I wanted to do it again, I had to learn better. I had to get better, and I have to understand a woman much better than I thought I did. And I had to
Mhm.
learn how to be a man with a woman, and learn how to be a man without a woman, because one of the things that I had previously was being a man, without a woman. When I got with her, I didn't know how to be one, which struggled, which caused friction, which caused those communication problems, which caused, the stubbornness. And I truly had to get better at doing something, which I had to reprogram myself of who I was as a man, and start looking at it from a learning standpoint. Um, so I definitely agree with what Oscar's saying, because it's important. Some of those consistency things that you want to see and continue, no matter if you're upset, mad, happy. We're in this together, and it needs to be something we grow together. And no matter what happens, we stay on one page.
Because I think a lot of people, and not to belabor the point, but I think a lot of people treat relationships like the return policy on a or an appliance. It's like they start off saying, already going into it like, okay, what's the return policy? Yeah, you have your standards.
Right.
You know what? I'm not going to compromise on this. I'm not going to do, compromise on that. Yeah, you should have those standards. But when the relationship starts to get serious and we're moving forward, I I know people, they're quick to pull out, well, what does that return policy say? Oh, we're angry. Well, let's just consider, just breaking up.
Fine print, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And you're looking for the negatives, like, oh, well, you didn't do this, so I'm out. Oh, you know what?
Right.
I had 9, oh no, 5 years. After 5 years, if we have issues, then I'm out. I'm gonna go on and look for another relationship. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of, get things mixed up. So
I love that. And Leo, you presented a very, very good question along with this subject. This is personal presentation in public, in private. Are there expectations and requirements for your partner to meet truthfully? And why does it truly matter? So, Jolon, what is your take on that? Let's start with you. I thought that this was a really good question along with the subject of what we want as male and female. Are there expectations, requirements for your partner to meet truthfully?
That topic is very sketchy, only because it's like, should you have expectations or should you not? I think it depends on the degree to which you have expectations. I mean, I would expect my partner to be committed if they are, if we come to a mutual agreement that we want to be in this relationship. I would expect them to follow up with what it means to be committed, as far as being honest, being very, open, transparent, communicate openly. So those are some things that I would expect to come from wanting to actually commit to a relationship with someone. When it comes to expectations of, let me backtrack. I think where we get twisted with expectations is we fall in love with potential. You see someone, you think they're attractive, you're intrigued by them, something sparks your interest, you meet, you talk, you get to know them, and then you start to think about, well, if we move this relationship along, what would it look like? And then you start to miss certain things. You start to miss red flags, if you will, or just things that you had on your list. Because I know a lot of times we make a list, like deal breakers, things that we want, what we're looking for, what we don't want. And a lot of times we will, overlook some of those things because we have set this person on a pedestal to where, oh, they have potential to be this. And, I think if I, with time, try to mold them into that person, then I think it'll work out. And then a lot of times we're, devastated when those things that we expected to happen don't. And we are faced with reality that this is actually not something that I wanted. I just thought that if I just kind of, worked with it or just kind of, overlooked it, that it would go away. And those things don't go away. You have to be openly expectant that you're going to receive and what, who they are. You have to go in with real expectations that this person is who they are. You're deciding to be with them, and flaws and all, in a sense. So I think expectations can be good, but at times we do set ourselves up a lot of times where we don't take it at face value.
I love that. Mine is consistency. If you worked out, and I'm not being shallow, but if you worked out when I first met you and you had, a lot of things about your character, you were a non-smoker, your dressing room, your hygiene, everything was a certain way. I don't expect that to change. I'm sorry. Like, I understand that our BMI will change as we get older. Our metabolism slows down. However, without being shallow, I expect you to maintain, what you presented to me. And that should not have been a facade, a representative, just, someone that you pretended to be. I expect consistency. And I feel like, a lot of times in my discussions with other people, that is like the number one thing that I hear is, he's not the same. And as you stated earlier, Jolon, deal breakers, I believe that's when it does become a factor, because it's like, you know what, you wasted 6 to 8 months of our time, not just my time, but, our time, when you could have just, kept it real all along. And for me, I know that there are serious, things that matter to me, that being health primarily. If you tell me that you go to church and you have a relationship with the Lord and you're just putting on, and, later I'm noticing, your attendance is slacking, you're not proactive, you don't pray. I'm always asking you to pray and, to engage in worship with me. That is a problem. So I think that, that is the number one requirement for me, is consistency. I think, Lewis, you touched on that a little earlier. That is huge. Absolutely huge. Leo?
I'm gonna play the gambler. I don't want to say devil's advocate because we're being very righteous in this present. We're being very righteous in this particular, so I'm playing the gambler. So when it comes down to consistency, and then Jolon, you mentioned expectations. When you, what are those particular concerns or values? Are they focused on the physical over time, or are we talking about the behavioral? Because if, let's say, because most of the time when we hear those conversations or statements, he's not the same, or she's not the
Mhm.
same. It often doesn't like target the physical. It often targets behavioral mannerisms. So I just want a little bit more clarity, or a little bit more
Well,
interest in that.
I was talking really about behavior. I was just saying physical because that's what attracted you in the first place. But I'm saying you set yourself up when you decide to meet, like, for instance, you're out and you're with your boys, and she's with her girls, and you come over, and introduced yourself, and she's like, oh, okay, I think he's cute. So you exchange numbers and things like that. You're both like physically attracted, just at first glance. But when I say behavior, you getting to know that person, and then you start to see little things like that's red flags, or like Erica said, not consistent with the things that you thought this person showed you, then you're going to be disappointed.
Interesting. So in other words, we could safely say that the interview process is a behavior that should kind of maintain itself throughout the course of the life of the relationship, because we all know everybody puts on their best,
No,
appearance and best behavior at the intro.
process. I mean, the interview process is kind of like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? Where have you traveled? I'm talking
Mhm.
about the consistent, and I think it's tying in with what Erica's saying now that you're asking this, the
Mhm.
consistency of actually being who you really are. Because like you said, Leo, the representative shows up, everybody puts their best foot forward, but then over time, you start to really become yourself. You get comfortable in being with this person, and relating to this person and being around this person. So you're really showing your true colors. But I'm saying on the other person's side, when I first met you and had you in my mind, where, oh, you're this perfect person, the expectations I'm putting on you to stay there without letting you be flawed in a sense, that's where the disappointment comes in, because it's like your humanness is now in question. Like, you're supposed to be
Mm.
a perfect guy, you're supposed to say these perfect things, do these perfect things, you can't mess up, but we're all human at the end of the day. And to put that on someone and not check yourself, is where a lot of people mess up, because they're like, this person should be perfect, I'm trying to be perfect, but life isn't that way. Things happen, situations arise. And even with new situations, you may not know, like, somebody reacted a certain way, like, oh, I never seen that side of you. Things bring out things in people that you've never known, even if from the beginning, the interview process, even until the present time, you're still learning that person. But I'm saying, don't set yourself up with
Mhm.
those expectations of this is the perfect person, because that's a lot for
Mm.
someone else to carry. And then when they don't carry that out, you find yourself in arguments when you were supposed to be this, and
Mhm.
you're calling out things that people are supposed to be when that person really isn't that. And they're looking at themselves like, hold on, how are you viewing me? So that's a lot to put on somebody.
Erica, pass or play?
I love that answer. I was going to piggyback off and say a few things, but yeah, she's so
Yes, no, go ahead.
well.
No, I was gonna say, how does that follow through with the concept of consistency and routine? Because there's a underlying or undertone aspect of perfection to routine or consistency. So what's your take on that?
I don't really have expectation with another individual. I feel like, when you're telling me who you are, it's up to me to believe that and to see that for myself. And that's why I go back to
Mhm.
saying, if this is a person I can truly rock out with, and this has become, really fun for me in terms of, communication, just the effortlessness and being able to talk to this person. I don't have to walk on eggshells. I don't have to feel like, oh my gosh, how am I going to prepare my statement? Or, do I have to look a certain way today? Or, if I talk to him, do I have to sound a certain way? Or I just want to feel like I have no inhibitions. You get what I'm saying? But when it comes to the relationship, if you ask me, so what is your health and your routine, your nutrition routine like? And I tell you, hey, I'm a clean eater. I love to work out 5 to 6 times a week. Would you like to become my workout partner? Maybe that's something we can enjoy together. And that's our thing. I don't want to see like a year or two later, it's like, you know what? Have that. You know what I'm saying? It never really was my thing. I just did it.
It's
You know
true.
what I'm saying? And I certainly don't want you to turn around to me and say, by the way, from time to time, I've been enjoying, this weed and this marijuana. I just didn't want to tell you that either. But I mean, I say who
Right.
you are and mean who you are. And I feel like at this point, this day and age, you can own that. There's nothing wrong with owning that. I mean, there's so many freedoms, and people can choose and be who they want to be. So, I mean, to me, it's just like, the old saying, keep it real. I cannot stomach the false realities. I can't do it. And I think
Right.
that's a lot of, what I've dealt with in relationships. I've been in a relationship where, someone was non-denomination Christian and literally left the Lord. Like, you know what? It just makes a man weak. I've been in a relationship where, it's like, why does your breath smell like nicotine? Like, what is happening? I've been in situations where it's like, you know what? I hate your dog. I don't like your dog. And I'm like, you know what? You told me you like animals. So I can't do the false realities. It's like, just keep it real, keep it 100.
Interesting. That's real interesting. So then I gotta divert it to the fellas because I'm learning from you all, especially on this particular topic. So I'll start off with Oscar and then end off with Lewis. So which one would you say is more painful or detrimental? Is it the disappointment that they didn't continue their follow through, like Erica and Jolon said, or is it the untrustworthiness, the deceit or the deception that over this period of time you felt that you were deceived in a truth that wasn't in existence or no longer existed?
Well, my response is going to be definitely subjective. Um, you know, when a person decides to step outside of a relationship after X amount of years and X amount of children, and you're left to raise 3 kids by yourself because this person was chasing what they thought they wanted, you know, that's deep for me. You know what I mean? So for me, you know, when you turn your back, not just on me, but the commitment that we have, to me, that cuts deep. You know what I mean? Especially if, and
Yeah.
you know, there's a saying that guys, you know, when we're young, you know, we don't like to make commitments and
Right,
stuff like
right.
that. I
Right.
was the type of guy that when I was 15, I knew I wanted to get married.
Me, t-
And
me too.
that, and
Me three.
when I was in Miami, I walked through this church that I was a part of when I was living in Miami at the age of 15. And the first thing I said out of my mouth, and not because I saw girls or anything, but I walked into the sanctuary, it was empty, and I said, I'm gonna find my wife in this church.
Mm.
That's at age 15. So for me, it wasn't about, you know, being a player, being out there, just kind of testing the water, sowing my royal oats. And it wasn't about any of that, right?
Right.
And then my expectation is I'm going to find somebody who wants to be committed into a relationship. And that we're going to work through this. We're going to work through the challenges. We're going to get through this. But when you know, someone ups and leaves because, you know, I turned a certain age, things are different, I'm different, you know, and I just want to leave. And there's no justification. I just want to leave and I want to pursue
Mm.
something else. You know, for me, and obviously that's a personal situation. You know, that's devastating. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know, we bounced. I know I bounced back from it. You know, and full disclosure, you know, I was left to raise 3 kids. You know, by myself. You
Wow. So that
know,
story was about you. Okay. Got it.
of course. You know, a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 9-year-old. You know, 2 girls and a boy. You know, so for
Mm.
me to answer that question, you know, is definitely subjective. You know.
Fair. 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 Lewis, you're muted, by the way.
Let me unmute.
Uh,
Sorry about that. Um,
okay.
I mean, I don't have any kids, and but I know I have 10 brothers and sisters, and I have 32 nieces and nephews, and I
Wow.
know 2 of my brothers are raising kids by themselves. So trust me, man. That's love right there. You know what I'm saying? And it's you don't find that that go on a normal basis, and it's kind of almost not even looked at as being something that's wonderful, even though it's normal to you because you love it's yours. We
Mm.
you don't get that much light. We always hear the other side. So much,
Right.
definitely much love, much love. Um, for me, I think in this day and age and where we are in our lives, I'm 62. So no, I'm joking. I'm not 62.
Now I was about to say, like, yo, what is the juice?
Right here.
What are you juicing,
Like,
brother?
hold up.
And the
What
very
is you juicing, brother?
I
Hey,
know,
yo,
right?
Is that
talking
that
But
is
about
that that kombucha? Like,
it's stupid. But in this day and age, I don't look at things as requirements. I don't look at things like expectations,
yeah.
because I think if you want to do something where we are in our lives, I'm hoping you've gone through all your struggles, you've gone through all your mishaps, you've gone through all the things that you needed to do, and you have learned better. So when you're telling me you want to be in a relationship, one of the things I'm probably asking myself about you is, okay, so you've done those things that got the kinks out. You've done all those things, the inconsistencies, or the saying one thing and not meaning another. I'm hoping that those are the things that you've gone through in your life since you're saying, I'm ready for a relationship. I'm ready to be with someone. You know what I mean? So I kind of look at it as, um, I don't really necessarily believe in falling in love. I had to learn that. So let me tell you what I mean by that. And when I talk to some of my clients about certain things, and we kind of go through certain situations, I really so wholeheartedly believe in growing in it. You have to grow in love. I mean, in this day and age, falling cannot be guided if you haven't grown and learned what love is. Most people fall in love and they fall and drift and not understand what's going on. So they do things like tell you, I'm going to church on Sunday, every Sunday with you, knowing they don't really want to go to church every Sunday with you. That this is what falling in love and doing anything, because love make you do things you don't normally do. Love makes you do things that you sometimes you can't keep up or be consistent with. And that can almost damage your relationship. So I believe in when you meet someone, I believe in necessarily growing with that person and doing all those necessary things so we can grow and understand what love is. Even with the love languages, I really believe the language you should learn is the language you learn with each other that becomes unique for you two. And when you do that, it becomes hard to break that bond between you two. You ever seen two ugly folk walking together down the street? Come on. You ever seen two? Let's keep it real. You be like, how in the world
I know we're trying to keep this righteous, but
Right.
man.
I'm struck, but then you call on God. You be like, God, come on, God, look, hook a brother up. But think about it. There's some things that what happened in that couple that they've learned and developed something unique about what they have, and whatever it is, I believe in developing that with the person that you're with. And for me, it's about growing, because growing is something you always have to do when you say I do, when you're in the marriage, and in order to understand what longevity is. You don't stop growing once you find the person that you're with. That becomes a problem because complacency sits in. Then you figure out, wow, I really don't like the way this person is doing certain things. But during the growth process, listening, feedback, checkups, where we are, doing those necessary things to stay with each other in tune with who you are so that you don't grow apart. The falling has to be guided, because you ever fell in love and then you fall out and then you wonder what happened. No one call, he don't call me no more. I wonder what happened. Like, we don't do these things. Oh, we're not friends no more, but I thought we supposed to be friends before we are lovers. So now we were friends, now we're lovers, and now you cut me off, so we're not friends either. I teach people to try to be careful with some of those things. And the biggest thing for me is, if you are not connecting, you are automatically neglecting. I tell people that all the time. If you are not connecting, it's an automatic that you're doing that. And the connection with your mate is an everyday, all day thing. And it doesn't necessarily mean you talking. It just means you know where you are. You communicate, you understand, you have a plan together of the different things that you want to do, where you want to go, and how you want to do that. When you have certain things in place, you don't have time to be in somebody else's face trying to figure out, oh yeah, you thank you for telling me good, nice things. You're even worried about that because you got your thing going, but you're forever growing with the partner that you're with. And I continue to see that. And even in some of the couples that I talk to, I always ask them, well, what do you want? They're like, they really don't know, because they still don't even know each other. You don't know each other. That's why you're not growing with each other. You starting to look outside, and like my brother Oscar said, you start to, it's crazy how you start to do other things outside your relationship, what makes it very, very difficult to do the things within your relationship. So consistency, all some of those other things, I had to learn better of who I was and how I used to be programmed. I had to get rid of what that was, reprogram my mind about who God sees me as a man, what he wants me to do, and redirect my efforts and those necessary things to do the right thing. And it caused me to let go a lot of stuff. And that's why I don't take that class when someone stops doing the things that they used to. I don't take that. I don't ask the whys. They just haven't learned. They don't understand. Um, so to kind of answer your question, it's the having those things where um, the expectations and all those necessary things. Nah, not for me. We have to really understand. Can I grow with you? I know you look good, you got a good job, and you got money, but money, I mean, I see rich folk toe up from the flow up. I mean, y'all know that, but yet you see poor folk who stick together. Why? There is something that's missing, not in our culture, or not only in our culture, having the highest single rate of Black women with kids. There's something wrong in our culture that we're not doing right. But yet we see some of these other cultures who don't have everything, but they have something that we're looking to get from them. And that's love, trust, and family. And some things we just need to give. We just unfortunately can't give up certain things. And we cannot give up what we used to do, because everything that we used to do, we bring in what we want to do. And if it didn't work before, you can't bring it into what you want to do. It's not going to work. It's not going to continue to work anyway. So
Exactly.
that's my spiel.
Another interesting question. It says, I want a person who has their stuff together, or I want someone smart. What are you truly asking for that will not intimidate you while not being unqualified posh? So let me read that again. What is, I want a person who has their stuff together, or I want someone smart? Let's start right there. And Leo, can you
Wow.
begin to elaborate on this, because this was one of the questions that you presented, and I love how this is tying along, because this is actually one of the questions that I wanted to get to. And then Oscar, I would like to go through your question next, because that one is a huge one for me. But Leo, touch on this one, please.
Yeah. So, you know, I've heard this. I've heard this before in my youthful, conversations with women, of course, and they've always said, I wanted somebody who has their stuff together, or they said that I want someone smart, and yet, from my experiences, I can't speak for anyone else, but from my experiences, I've presented that not with the intentions of meeting that specific request, but I've met it by which there's always been an intimidation to it, as if I see it, I have it, but I've literally had women say that I'm not the right one for you, or you're too good for me. So it's one of those interesting questions. I'm sorry, what happened?
How did you take that?
Well, first I laughed because I do find it humorous. Because I don't see how I'm intimidating. I don't see how I'm intimidating, and I think over time I've kind of, unfortunately, equated it to the culture downplaying intelligence but elevating the appearance of fame and celebrityism. If that makes any sense. I think that the idea of saying that you have someone smart, or that they have their stuff together, is more verbally appealing than actually receiving that very gift or embracing that gift. There are times and situations where you can have a conversation, whether it's with your spouse or whether it's with your friends, and you may entertain a topic that you have no clue. There are individuals that will feel like, oh, you're being extra, or you're doing too much, or you may feel that way as well. You may say, oh, you're being too extra, or you're doing too much. And the real question to me is, what is influencing you to want to say that? Not what is influencing you to receive that message, but what is influencing you to say such a thing by which you feel like you can't participate in the learning journey, rather than, entertain it and give it a shot. And even if you're wrong, learn from your errors. I mean, I think sometimes school back in the days for us, I don't think they do it now, because digitally they just give you the answer with no reason why. But I know back in my days,
For real.
back in my heydays when we used to do Scantrons, I don't know about you guys and your virtual schooling, but whenever we'd have tests or quizzes and you got questions wrong, you actually had the opportunity of doing the makeup work. And the great thing about doing the makeup work was to see where you went wrong in that particular question, and how you could learn how to further apply it maybe on the final or whatever. I think it works the same exact way with conversations that you may not be familiarized with. When it comes down to those smart conversations, and I'm not talking about political situations, because politics will always be subjective, never really objective, unless you are able to have those mature conversations without letting your emotions, spill all over the table. But even regular questions or conversations that you can have about, let's say we mentioned fitness earlier, we mentioned spiritualism. What about reading? Something as nuanced as reading, obtaining knowledge, and like, hey, when was the last book that you read? Or, what did you gather from it? Just even those unique Barnes and Nobles type of questions are the questions that usually get kicked to the curb or to the side. And for me, what I've always wondered and wanted to, request from the women is, what is it that charges or maybe potentially influences either the old you, the present you, or hopefully not the future you in asking for something that you feel like you're not truly ready or prepared for?
Mhm.
Because if it's there and you do have your quote unquote faith in God, why would you block your blessing?
Yeah.
You know, so that's where that question kind of, you know, spawned from, was obviously my previous experiences, but even just regular basic dialogues with individuals, that even amongst their friends, if a conversation seems to get, logical or philanthropic or critical thinking or whatever, just challenges your norm, just for fun, just to kind of explore ideas or concepts, it's always you're doing too much or you're too extra, or yeah, he's not my type, he's ugh, you know so
Right, right.
that's where that came from.
Well, to answer that, Erica knows this very well. There's, to me, twofold. I feel like I've dated a guy who was very intellectual, very book smart, very, thought provoking conversations. But I think that was all he was about. He didn't know how to have fun. He didn't know how to be lighthearted and laugh and joke. And I felt like for me to be constantly always like, oh gosh, I got to think about everything. Everything has to be a philosophical conversation. It didn't allow us to grow together. You know what I mean? I am very open to learning because I don't know everything. I don't have the answers to everything. um, just growing up in different households, different fields of study, like whatever you choose to develop your mind from by reading or travel, whatever it is that you have gained experience, I feel like you should be able to learn and share from each other. And
Mhm.
another aspect of that was that he felt like he couldn't learn anything from me just because he put himself on the pedestal of, I'm this intellectual, what do you have to teach me? And so I
Mm,
think when people, I know from my experience, if I were to encounter someone like that again, I would probably be very cautious because I don't mind the intellect. I think I'm an intellectual person. I think I, am open to learning new things, and I educate myself, and I've been educated. But at the same time, I think it's about balance. I think it's about knowing what you bring to the table, but also what you can get from the table, what that other person is serving you as well, and not just forcing your intellect on them all the time. I think there's a time and a place for everything. There's Netflix and chill, and we could talk about philosophy, we could talk about, the ways of the world, just whatever. But I don't think it should be all the time. I think balance is key here to developing, a place where you don't feel intimidated and not making that other person feel intimidated. So, and also not shooting someone down because you haven't heard something. For instance, I shared one time, because I'm a bio major, and I shared a piece of information that I learned when I was in class in college, fun fact about, how the body metabolizes sugar. And it was like, well, I've never heard that, so it can't be true, and it's like
right.
sharing something with you intellectually that I know for a fact. And you shot me down because you've never heard that, because you have a totally different mindset, totally different field of study, but you consider yourself this intellectual. So it's like,
Mm.
okay, so I guess I won't. It makes you shut down to where you feel like you're not offering or giving anything, because it's like, well, you're the brains of the operation. I'm just here to look pretty. And so I think
Mm,
with women, we're just as smart, but we want to be
right.
appreciated for our smartness as well, and also respect you for yours.
Right. Right.
I love
He
that.
was probably eating a donut, by the way, but yeah.
Jealous.
Right, right, right.
For Duncan.
No, Leo, it was interesting what you said earlier about, looking at the celebrity today. A lot of women are chasing the bag. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of women are getting in relationships to see what the relationship can do for them, excuse me. So I think for myself, it's more or less, I do at this age, I do want a man, yes, who has his stuff together, of course. Like, what is his stuff and what does that mean? His stuff together, it's
Right.
gonna have a few minuses. I'm just hoping it's not lost screws up there and so forth. But I am thinking about, hey, let's tap back into that subject, career versus job. Does he have a career?
Mm.
Is he coming to at 40 plus, is he coming to the table with children? That's something. Am I going to be a bonus mom? I think of my goal.
A BM.
Do they do they run parallel with his goals? I like to travel. Does he want to, see the world? I mean, coronavirus, yes, but after and post all of that, what do we have in common? What are our commonalities? And what does it really mean to have one stuff together? You know what I'm saying? So I think what you and Jolon said ties in, very well. But that celebrity thing, that is my confusion. A lot of people are pretentious, especially here in Atlanta. That's been my downfall. Yeah, that's been a huge downfall.
I'll wait my turn. Go ahead, Oscar.
No, no.
I know you had a question. I know you had a question, brother. I know you had a question. So I will pass and wait till my turn to play.
No, I think Erica, you wanted to back on another topic, I think, or
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Will you present your question? I like the way that you presented your question in our chat group. Can you ask that question so that you can verbalize it the way that everyone should hear it?
Which one? I think. Oops, sorry. It was a couple of them, right?
Leo says term of the day, BM, bonus.
I saw that.
I love that.
I love it.
I'm looking for it. I'm looking through our because there was a couple of topics we threw out there, right?
Yes. And take your time. We're live right now as well, and we have.
Yeah, I found it.
Okay, awesome. Everyone is loving this conversation.
So I'll just read it. Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
No. Go ahead. We're ready for you.
Okay, so I'll read it as I wrote it and then expound on it. So he or she never says thank you or shows appreciation. Should he or she even say thank you at all? After all, he or she is supposed to do X, Y, Z. Okay. Let me read it again. Okay, he or she, right, never says thank you in the relationship or even shows appreciation. Is she or is he even supposed to say thank you at all when the other person does something, gives something, whatever? Because after all, for example, why should I, not me, Oscar, but why should the man or the woman even say thank you? Because that other person is supposed to do that, whatever X, Y, Z is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Can I answer that? Okay, so it's a great question, but I'm kind of confused why that's even a question, for the mere fact that I thought common courtesy was a excellent form of appreciation in the first place. So the idea that you should leave compliments or common courtesy or that essence of chivalry is absent, to me that's asinine, asa 10, asa 11. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous to not show appreciation for your spouse. I don't know. I can only simplify it as that. I thought it's common courtesy if, oh babe, you made dinner. Thank you very much. I appreciate you for doing that. That's just the basic that's communications basics 101. Now, if we were going to go into an advanced communication aspect, this is something that I learned from a class that had nothing to deal with relationships between, your spouse, but just individuals in general. And I see that it actually is, it works all the way around. Saying thank you for a specific reason. is even more valuable than just saying thank you for doing this or doing that. You know, you don't have to go into like a long paragraph or essay as to why they did what they did, but it could be as something as simple as, you know, thank you very much, Erica, for allowing all of us to be here and to communicate during these particular times during the pandemic, but more so the cultural and behavioral pandemic between relationships mending or relationships coming together. And, you know, we think that this is going to be very powerful and impactful. Something as simple as that. I know I got cookie points, but something as simple as that, as targeting the thanks, should be something that's much more advanced, whether it's taught from, you know, relationship counseling, that could be implemented, but from a basic level, saying thank you, or would you be so kind, or I appreciate you. To me, I'm sorry, for me, that should be basics 101. And I'm sorry, I don't mind taking the shots. There's no excuse for not having that implemented in any relationships by any means necessary. If you could say thank you to God, you could say thank you to your spouse. Point blank, end the period.
And so I think I mentioned in the last talk that we had that there's a men's group that I used to run. And one of the consistent things that I heard a lot of men say is, man, I don't feel appreciated at home, you know, or I don't feel appreciated by my girlfriend, you know. And so guys, we look at, man, you know, I went to work, you know, I brought home the bacon, you know, I pay the mortgage, I take care of the bills, I help with the kids, but I still don't feel appreciated. And one of the byproducts is, man, I don't hear thank you, or I don't, you know, hear, man, you know, I saw you did that little thing, you know, you took care of this, you know, around the house, you know, I really appreciate that. I value you. So I think a lot of guys, kind of going back to the main topic of the whole day, what do women want versus what do men want? I think for a lot of men, we want to know that we are appreciated, not necessarily because, you know, I bought you a card or roses, but it's just being appreciated for who we are in the relationship, and vice versa. I wonder, do women feel like, do you feel appreciated in the relationship? Do you feel like you should show appreciation, or nah, he's a man, he's supposed to do those things. I don't have to say I appreciate it. I don't have to say XYZ, because like Leo said, there's certain values that should be already woven in the fabric of a relationship just by virtue of we're two human beings created by God, but not everybody sees appreciation the same way.
Yes.
So I wonder if that's, and again, I'm not making an excuse, but I am trying to bring awareness to it as something to think about. Can we say that that may be a byproduct of the environment by which either the person has grew up in and not seeing appreciation as a valuable asset? Or is it possibly the emotional and relationship abuse that they may have endured in the past, by which now they carry that hurt as well over and become that person who lives by the idea or ideals of hurt people. That it's a question that I want to raise to the ladies, because I do know that, you know, for women, as we've heard, you know, expectations, routines, consistency is very valuable, and maybe that might be a disconnect with, as you mentioned, with the men, where these consistencies and these routines and these expectancies by which they're being fulfilled, there's no form of genuine gratitude being shown to it. So I would want to question the women's thoughts and ask, is that something that is programmed? And if it is programmed, can you deconstruct that program to a new idea by which you're much more appreciative of the man, which thus gives value to those activities.
I have to really give credit to love languages, because prior to that, I really had just a really hard time trying to understand, relationship and, how my mate wants to be loved. And I think that it's the art of communication and saying, I enjoy when we do this. I feel like this when you do that to me. The art of communication is allowing someone to know. I don't necessarily think that, you need to tell someone to tell you thank you. But if, what you just described, someone has trauma or they just did not learn, you know, the beautiful words, thank you, and how that's supposed to be received, that should be communicated. I enjoy when you tell me thank you. I enjoy when you express, whether or not you like the meal that I created for us, that goes a long way. And I think for me, I'm the overcompensator. Like, I love to throw the cherry on top. So I'm not just going to verbalize how that particular moment made me feel. I'm going to show you. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to reciprocate that, because it's important to me to elevate that so that we both have, that appreciation together. We share that. And whether that be sexually, whether it be, I'm going to form a date for us this Friday, whether it just be, you know what, babe, grab them and kiss them and, hey, I did this for you, whatever it is. I want you to feel achieved. I want you to feel like your wife sees you, she feels you, and I want you to immerse yourself in that. So that's huge. And I believe that that too is the art of communication and showing someone, because it's like, you know what? That felt hella good. I'm gonna do it again.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rewarding. I wanted to say as well, I agree with Erica on, the love languages. I do think that with my own experience, I never knew until I read that book that people felt that way, because you feel like you're showing your love for them by doing what you think they will perceive as love for them. So if I'm quality time is definitely my love language, because I feel like spending time with that person, we could be doing nothing at all, but being in your presence, and that could be quality. You don't have to be doing anything, but quality would be me being with you and just enjoying each other's company. But I never knew that there were other aspects to being in a relationship. I just thought because you're definitely with that person, spending time, you're in a relationship, you're committed, but that's what a relationship was. Didn't know that there was acts of service, didn't know that there was words of affirmation, physical touch, giving gifts where people do feel appreciated, until I feel like Erica said, there's nothing wrong with verbalizing, hey, when you did this, I felt like this, because I'm not a mind reader. I'm not going to know right off the bat what your love language is. I feel like it's okay to communicate to that person what you need from them. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I love it when you say thank you, or I love it when you show appreciation by, giving a compliment, or, expressing yourself with words, because not everybody is a physical touch, or everybody is a word, giving, and, things like that. So if we're talking specifically about saying thank you, words of affirmation, then I feel like having that conversation kind of opens that person's eyes. It's giving them the tools to help them understand you better, because it shows that you want to get to know them. It shows that you're putting an effort to understand them. And so I feel like it deepens that bond. I feel like it's okay to communicate even that. Now, basically, somebody holds the door for you, thank you. Some people don't. Some people didn't learn thank you. Some people weren't taught at a young age, the pleasantries and things like that. So yes, I feel like some of it can stem from upbringing or trauma, or not seeing that growing up. Not everyone had a perfect household where they had two parents, or even if they had two parents, it was not a good relationship between their parents and things like that. But I feel like at some point you get out into the world and you learn even that on your own. saying and doing certain things that is societally accepted. So I feel like there isn't a lot of leeway with saying, I didn't know to say thank you, at some point in your life. But I feel like maybe understanding how important it is can be discussed.
So let me ask you a question then, ladies, and this is probably kind of controversial because I've heard that before that, well, I didn't know your language of love, tell me, X, Y, Z. But the same appreciation that maybe the man is seeking, you actually give it to other people. It could be other friends, it could be other male friends, and some women. It's not that, oh, you don't know the language of love.
You ain't giving it to me.
You're giving it to me consistently, but you are expressing that. For example, if a guy likes I don't know, just something that guy's language of love may be affection, right? Physical affection, not sexual per se all the time, but just a hug or something like that. Some women like, oh, well, why you always want me to hug you, but yet you're hugging other people consistently.
I'd raise my eyebrow on that one.
So, and when I'm not talking about hugging other men, but hug just, you may be a natural hugger to other people, but you're not hugging your husband. It's just, for example, if a wife says, hey, my language of love is, I love gifts, cards, flowers, chocolate, the whole romance stuff. So let's say I, the man, do that for a period of time, right? Because that's what you say you like. But then I taper off and I stop giving you that, not because we have issues, but I just stop. But I'm doing that for maybe my aunt, mom, sister, friends, but not doing it to you. And you don't feel appreciated. So it's not that I don't know your language of love. I'm just no longer consistent. So I want to find out, why do some women get to the point where they allow their expression of whatever it is, their commitment gets eroded? What happens that causes the erosion over time? Not if the guy cheated, not if because, X, Y, Z. What are some of the reasons why the relationship gets, or your commitment to the relationship gets corroded?
I will honestly say for myself, I believe it's because you get so used to expecting what he does for you. You're so spoiled in expecting. And that word expecting is huge because, we talked about expectations earlier. And, no one is committed, to do anything more for you than you are for them. This is
Exactly. Thank you.
this is an equal
Thank
share,
you.
So, when we when we come to the table and we talk about matters, that is important. And I think a lot of women, it goes through one ear and out the other because, we have this thing in us where it's like, what have you done for me lately? Like the Janet Jackson song.
I
And
know you lying.
and it's like, we have to learn to reciprocate. It's highly important to reciprocate. So to answer your question, I believe that it's a comfort zone. I believe, male is naturally known as a provider and the protector. And we just naturally get spoiled in that mode where it's like, you know what? This is what he does for me. This is what he better do for me. Girl, we have the tendency to talk to our girls, he didn't do this, or, oh, let me tell you what happened. And do you notice? No, we need to be reciprocal. And I think that, that is definitely lost in this day and age. As I said earlier, a lot of women are achieving like this foundation where it's like, I know what I need for me and I know who I want to be. I know that in 3 to 5 years, this is what I want to achieve. This is a level of success I want to have. I want to model the Beyoncés and the Cardi B's, and it's totally, it's really faded. It's faded, and the men are getting wiser. I have
Mhm.
so many friends that are turning to me and saying, I'm getting a vasectomy. No woman is going to trap me in
No.
that bag. A lot of men are turning around and saying, I know what women are about. And nowadays it's more or less, what can I get out of a relationship more so than, how can I commit myself to a man and achieve marriage?
Mm,
So
mm.
it's sad. Call me old fashioned, but it is what it is today. And it's unfortunate.
That's
In
your
my
opinion. I'm not gonna say that's what it is today. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you speaking your right of how you feel about it, but at the end of the day, I just feel like when it comes to two people
I'm
that's
sorry. You
dealing with
know
each
what?
other,
I need to interrupt you. Where did you come from? And who are you?
what's up, people? Nah, I was at Papa Do's. That's why I really couldn't just like bring y'all into my food situation. So I apologize. You know what I'm saying? But I don't have no problem falling in within the conversation and where y'all at because I don't have no problem comprehending where y'all at. But I
Okay.
mean, just my opinion or thought, like I just feel like man, when it comes to two people, it should have a lot of communication, ask a lot of questions, and just feel natural about the situation. All that outline and trying to go by these type of rules, like just flow with the situation with one another. And if it don't feel right, talk about it. And if it ain't what it is, then move on. It shouldn't be that complicated when you're dealing with an individual. If it ain't what it is, it shouldn't be all these guidelines. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm only speaking from my experience, so it's my opinion too. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? I feel like it should just flow, and you don't have to have too much worry on your mind. I mean, I'm in my 40s. A couple of other cats maybe on the other end, maybe within theirs. Like we're at the point where that we just trying to find peace and be happy with an individual that we can just enjoy our life with. We ain't in 20s, 30s, like early 30s. So I mean, all that what you're saying, like 5 years. First of all, you need to be blessed for every day that you wake up because God could take you at any time. You know what I'm saying? So all this pre-planning, like this, what I want in 5 years. It's a lot of things that we do want, but to be happy to be next to that person that you really feel deep about, that's a blessing. You know what I'm saying? Like it shouldn't be. I don't know. Maybe because I'm looking at it like what's going on in the world, and some of my friends that I know I went to high school with that's probably younger than me, they're already gone. So at this time right now, it's like enjoy the individual that you with, and the things that you can solve, let's solve them out and move forward
That's a
and be
beautiful
happy with them.
concept. That's a beautiful concept. But as a woman, sitting in hair salons, nail shops, having girlfriends, and excessive conversations with women, they are analyzing where they want to be 3 to 5 years from now. And
But you,
the man essentially, and this is not in all cases, but the man is being used, not all the time, but in a dating phase. Yes, a man is being used so that they can level up. And that's
he's
the
not.
sad modern day. I'm telling you, that is what a lot of
He's
women are doing. But to go back to
Facts.
Oscar, yeah, to go back to what Oscar was saying, I believe that inside of the home, there needs to be an appreciation. You know, thank you never gets old in any relationship. I don't care if it's in the
true.
workplace. Thank you is just a given. Like you say thank you. But the art of reciprocity, the art of thank you, the art of communication, what Oscar's talking about, those are key components. And I believe that every relationship should own that.
And what I was
Jolon,
going to say was the fact that, having read that book again, um, yes, it may be unnatural for you because that's not your love language. Again, it's coming outside of
Right,
yourself
right,
to
right.
show that person each and every day you're together that you appreciate them. And the wavering off, the tapering off, it takes effort because it's not natural. you're naturally wanting to love them how you want to be loved. And that's where the work comes in. So the tapering off is, that's not natural for that woman to, at first you because I told you what I wanted. And that's why people say, oh, people don't change, because they'll change for a little bit. If you come to them with something, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that to hurt my feelings or whatever, they'll change for a little bit and then they go back to where they were, because it's not natural for them. It takes effort to say, you know what, let me take a second. Today, I'm going to make an effort to, like how you affirm yourself, you can affirm your relationship. I'm going to make an effort to make my mate feel appreciated today in all aspects. And you have to get up every day. Every day is a new day to where you start over. You don't bring what, carry on from the last week to every day. You got to start over and start fresh and make sure that you're doing those things, because if you don't, it's going to die. And that person will eventually stop feeling appreciated. Because again, I get what you're saying. You hug your mom, but you don't see your mom every day. You don't see your sister every day. You don't see, so if you're with your spouse every day, like Erica said, sometimes it becomes routine. So that person is there. My husband is going to pay the bills. I know we're going to be straight, but at the same time, yes, he will, for the rest of the time y'all are together, till you guys either separate or close your eyes and sleep. But you have to put that effort in. You have to make sure that you're doing it every single day.
Yeah. And I believe it's a willingness to want to. It shouldn't be burdensome. It shouldn't be an obligation.
Absolutely.
Men, they are hard at the core, but they are, I'm not saying that they're soft, but they have feelings. Men have feelings, and men want to feel appreciated. Men want to feel like, you know what, I'm seen. This woman, this is my wife. I got her, so I want to feel the same way. I want to understand that she's got me. And some words don't even need to be spoken. Go in there and take care of your man the way that he likes to be taken care of. And only So that's my whole take on that.
You all
I,
Do you feel?
Miles Monroe? You guys remember Dr. Miles Monroe?
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Miles Monroe, he passed away, he and his wife, unfortunately, a number of years ago. But when you talk about understanding how God made men and how God made women, I mean, he would break it down, even down to how God made the anatomy of men versus the anatomy of women. For example, women are naturally built as a receiver, right? Men are physically built to give. Once the two come together in union, as they're supposed to be, the man gives and makes a deposit into the woman, but she has been gifted and anointed and graced to carry life and create another life, right? But there comes a time where people feel like, hey, man, I'm doing all this giving and giving and giving in the relationship, and I'm not getting anything in return from what men think, right? Flip side, and ladies, feel free to correct me. You have some women like says, hey, I'm supposed to be receiving. I'm supposed to be receiving. Matter of fact, I don't need you to make a deposit. I can do this on my own, and I'll create on my own. So I don't need you. And so what happens is, in relationships, we get out of our place where the man says, you know what, I'm going to stop giving. And the woman says, you know what, well, I don't need you anyway. And then there's this constant conflict, and we're bumping heads. We withhold from each other what we're naturally supposed to give and do for each other, versus just saying, hey, you know what, let's come together in unity so that we can create a beautiful thing. It may not be a child, but the relationship is designed by God to create a beautiful thing. And I think what happens is, back to our conversation before, I think Leo probably brought up the discussion of Adam and Eve. When the fruit was taken, both of them got to the point where it's like, we're blaming each other. We're at odds now. We're not even in the place that we're supposed to be, and so we're constantly bumping heads. And it's hard for people to grow in relationship and we're constantly, thinking about ourselves, not giving, not receiving, and just want to focus on what am I going to get out of a relationship. If I don't get it, then I'm out.
Yeah. And that's the sad part about it. And it's so lazy minded. Yeah. I love that, Oscar.
Work. That's what I mean. It's a fresh start every day, working towards that goal of making sure your mate is happy with you. Because what's the point of being together? You know?
So, Lewis, for the sake of time, I know we are at 10 p.m. We have our conclusion called solution time. Lewis, can you tell us what solution time means?
Um,
How we
I would think solution would be, even with the questions that we ask and the things that we're talking about. I know in some of the sessions I've done, I've always leave time for now what, right? We've asked the questions, we have our opinions, and we've done different things, and people are listening. I'm pretty sure people are listening, and we're learning from each other as well. What are some of the solutions that we can come up with, that can move us forward, or even apply, to our lives, so that we all can grow? um, Instead of just, we talk about certain things, what happened, what this is. So now, what is the solution? What do we move forward with, and doing certain things? So for me, Oscar, I listened to your question. This is not a solution, but I really believe we just don't know how to fight anymore.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And if we know how to fight, we know how to fight wrong. So the friction stays there because we fight with our backs against the wall, and that's just to survive, even if it means hurting the person I love or who's the closest to me, not
Mm.
knowing that I am fighting, almost killing the person that I've grown to build a life with, which inadvertently make you even sicker or make the relationship even worse. That's just my opinion of how I look at certain things. That's why I can hug my girl and even a boyfriend I know and not hug you, because I want you to feel the pain that I'm feeling because of what we went through. So that's the only way I know how to fight. But I think part of that growth part is having those checkups, where we're at. How do we come up with solutions? My mom always told me, she was like, Lewis, it's never, um, about who's right. It's always about what's right. If you always do what's right, then the blame you can never put too much blame on who did this and who did that. Let's have a place, whether if it's biblical, whether if it's in prayer, whether it's going to God together, because we know that's where we can go and get the right answer.
Yeah.
If we can't go there, because that's the right thing to do, and you know what, it may not be a win-win. It may be we both lose, for what we think we wanted, but at least we did the right thing, and we know blessings come out of that, because you start to realize we're attacking each other and not the problem. And once
Yeah.
we get to a point where we attack the problem, we no longer look at us as if we're the problem, and that should almost hopefully bring us stronger, to each other. And Lee, you was talking about how, part of your question was, the whole consistency. Well, that probably wasn't your question, but the consistency thing, I believe it was, or going into your last, situation. For me, um, and this is not necessarily a solution, I just really think it's tough when the growing is not there. I mean, it's so tough even trying to find someone to really be with when the growing is not there, and that means individual growth.
Mhm.
If you don't have individual growth, there's no way we're going to grow together,
Yeah.
because we're looking at things different. We're looking at things through the filter of our own minds and our own brains of how we used to be. And I can throw something like, okay, what do you think about arguments? One person may be, I hate them. Oh my God, I don't even, I just ignore. Then you have another person say, I don't mind. It's not necessarily an argument, because I love coming up with ways of how we can resolve it. Two different perspectives, because we've given that information and we've learned to filter it. I think that's how it is in all our relationships, and the
Yeah.
different things that we do. So that's my small little thing of what I think it's not, again, it's not a solution, but I think for people that's hearing, for people that's listening to us and where we're trying to go, I think we all can apply some type of solution to everyone's questions, or even experiences that we've had.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I love that. And I also think that it's about, looking at it glass half full instead of glass half empty. It's an attitude. And, where you vow and commit to be with someone eternally, it's all about how Jalon said, waking up every day and having the right attitude. We're not
Mm.
always going to be in the mood. No, but you have to put on that attitude, and fulfill, what you vowed to do, and that's to love, to honor. And I'm really strong with the term agape. It's God's love. Sometimes it's hard to love that person. We could have argued yesterday and, have chosen not to allow the sun to set, and we go to bed feeling, still angry, but, we resolved our bitter tension, and the next day, it's still fresh, and we don't want to really look at each other, but you resolve that anger within yourself, that being your attitude, so that you can move forward in love. God, Jesus, I mean, such a fine example. And we don't want to walk away from our mate feeling like, we can turn our back on that individual and place judgment. But it's about turning to the problem and fighting against the problem and not each other. And I definitely feel like, Oscar, with your questions tonight, it definitely makes me even understand in my relationships how I can, be a little bit more assertive in showing my gratitude, even if it's not a romantic relationship, just allowing people to understand, my gratitude. So I think it's very important, you know. Yeah. So solution. Leo, what do you take from our conversation? This being only part one, our first live discussion. What do you take from all of this, all of the questions?
All the questions were obviously valuable. I think this overall, panel and platform gave us the opportunity to really speak on what's kind of like on the tip of our hearts. I mean, I'm sure
Mm.
there'll be an overflow and a flooding of many, many more. But so thank you for that. You know what I mean? But thank you for that. But I would say one solution that I do have for one of the questions that we had asked is to don't be afraid to do a self inventory of self.
Mm.
We as a culture have this bad habit, bad behavior, bad cultural generational chain by which we like pointing the fingers at other people and yet totally forget that there's three other fingers pointing back.
Mm.
And according to my knowledge, I'm not a mathematician, but the majority always wins. So if you have three fingers pointing back at you, at least you can do, if you're going to point your finger at that one person, ask yourself three times over, where are you going wrong? Because that allows not only self-development, but also situational development. So that's what I kind of want to share with everyone as a solution. I'm a strong believer that we all know all the wrong answers, but there isn't an absolute right answer. There's just a variety of good answers.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you
Yep.
allow one of the good answer, you allow one of the good answers to direct your path in your journey, to define your experience and see where it goes. So that's what I would like to leave. Manners make it the man, as the Kingsman movie said. So
That's
you know,
good.
check
I
yourself.
saw that. I saw that.
Yeah, yeah.
Jalon, what do you take from our conversation and our viewers? What counsel and wisdom can you offer them in conclusion?
And it's okay to communicate how you feel. I think if you communicate effectively, respectfully, that you can grow in your relationship. I think a lot of times we leave things unsaid, we leave things to chance, we leave things to develop and find its own way. But I feel like being intentional, making the effort, and just getting to know yourself, being open, being transparent, it helps you grow and helps your relationship grow. So I feel like there's nothing wrong with being a little vulnerable, and open. So I think we can learn that it's okay to have flaws as well, because I know a lot of times we don't want to show those scars and show those things that make us who we are. It's okay to show that, because it shows that you are a real person. No one wants to feel like they're engaging with someone who is just got it all together. There's nothing wrong with having it together, but you're putting on this facade that you've got it all together when you don't. I think it's like, well, then where do I fit in your life? How do I help you? How do you help me? So it's okay to be human, I think, is what I'm really trying to say. At the end of the day, we're all human, but it's okay to be human.
That is.
I think just being who you are, like your character, your personality, just be who you are. Like I know, and it sounds like what I'm hearing sounds like, why battle against yourself when you know who you are and you know who you want to be, but you have to always double standard and try to have a reality check about should I do this or should I do that, when you have a natural being of yourself. That's where I didn't got to the point of like, I know my weakness is nice, but that's who I am. I'm not gonna fight against it. If I'm gonna be nice, I'm gonna be nice. But they'll tell me, Clay, you too nice. But I can only be who I am. You know what I'm saying? So why should I have to battle against something that I know that's my natural character? So I feel like if that's who you are, just be who you are. Everything else gonna fall in line. You gonna feed. You gonna understand. You know what I'm saying? The vibes and whoever you're dealing with. But at the end of the day, as long as you know you're being yourself, that's all that matters. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like don't battle against that.
That's beautiful. And Oscar, can you take us out with the conclusion, sweetheart?
Yeah, sure. Listening to everybody talk, and I think a really good point, actually, Jolon really touched on this. We have to get to the point where we all need to sit down and listen and get better at listening in relationship. And practice, because she was talking about communication. Good communication is when we sit down and let's say you and I are talking and you're making a point, you're expressing your feelings, something may hurt you, disappointed you, showing your expectations, you're sharing your dreams. It's my responsibility to literally sit back and use the 2 ears that God gave me to really listen to what you're saying and don't formulate responses, automatic responses. I don't always have to give advice, but I should have a responsibility to sit back and listen. And then after you've shared, or your spouse has shared, or your girlfriend, your boyfriend, have a significant other has shared what's on their heart, repeat to them what they told you before you come back with a rebuttal.
That's right.
So it's like, oh, so what you're saying is when I come at you this way, it made you angry, right? Yeah, okay. So when I didn't buy you flowers the other day, you felt like I was withholding affection from you, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, but not in a negative way of saying, oh, you saying I don't do nothing for you? Is that what you're saying? No, actually repeat back what your significant other actually said. Then in response to that, you say, okay, well, either I really didn't know how that affected you. I didn't know how my silence made you feel unappreciated. Or you know what? I didn't realize me going out all the time put it in your mind that maybe I'm cheating. I didn't realize that. So God gave us 2 ears, like they say, and 1 mouth, so we can listen more than we speak. So to me, a solution it goes all back to communication, effective communication. I think Brother Lewis is talking about, which is really good, fighting, that conflict. That conflict comes when we stop listening and we're really waiting for our time to throw a jab. Because I'm in the ring with you now.
Right.
You offended me. You're not giving me what I used to do. We're not having sex like we used to. Or you're not buying me this, you're not doing this, you're not, doing X, Y, Z. You're not helping me with the kids. So we're just gonna constantly fight. Versus, first of all, why are we even in a ring? We're supposed to be in a relationship. So that was it.
I don't think we can do better than that.
Man, you're gonna leave us with the ring and the relationship. That's how you're gonna leave us? Oh, all right, fine.
That's a good one. That's a real good one, though.
That was beautiful.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Whew. My cup is full. Runneth over. That was beautiful. I'd like to get together with you guys again and elaborate on more questions. And we have so many to go through. So we'll come back again in our live chat group and discuss when we would like to reconvene and have another panel discussion. I enjoyed this so much. I think all of you are wise beyond what you know, beyond what I can articulate. I mean, it was just, I gained a lot tonight.
Yeah.
I think we all learned that. I definitely learned some stuff too. I'm glad I met everyone here. I'm sorry I didn't meet last time. It was crazy. So please forgive me.
Oh, it wasn't crazy. We know where you were. Everyone knows where you were that evening, but it's okay.
Whatever. But
Right. You're here.
I'm glad I finally get to meet everyone. And just the experience. I do a lot of I get to speak at a lot of different places. And I know sometimes we can get to the point where, the conversation can get real raw and sometimes, conflict. But at the same time, I know, we're at the point where we can actually give feedback and take criticism and have a better understanding of what it is without actually probably going out at each other's throat, just because we disagree. And I think that's so important because when we stop doing that, I think that's when we stop learning. I'm about learning. I'm about getting as much information as I can so I can share it or I can apply it. So thank you for sharing y'all information too.
Thank you, Erica, for putting this together. This was a cool idea.
I can't say it
in a pandemic setting. So we were able to get, to talk. It's like hard to get with people and have deep conversation like this. So thank you for orchestrating this meeting.
You guys
Go
are
ahead,
the creator.
Love you. Everyone have a fun
The creator.
evening. And happy Sunday. And you guys be safe. And I hope we have a great second week in our new year.
Yeah.
I know.
A happy 2021.
I'm ready for 2022.
Right.
Oh,
Already?
Cheers to that. Erica knows. Cheers to that.
All right, you guys say thank you so much and good night.
All right, good night.
all right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night. Be safe.